And welcome to this virtual production vlog. My name is Matt Workman, and today we're going to be talking about the secret weapon that HTC sent me from my virtual production studio. Second, we're going to be taking a tour of my virtual production studio here. Things have been changed. We have a bigger green screen. Third, we're going to be talking about the new virtual camera, the new virtual Vive camera that shipped in Cine Tracer, which is the app and program I make. We're going to end by talking about some high-end camera tracking solutions. I've been talking with different manufacturers and want to just update you on how that project is kind of going along. And so there's not going to be any like new footage. I'm actually waiting for some new gear, so we're not going to be shooting anything today, but plenty to talk about. Let's jump into it. So number one, what is this special secret weapon that HTC sent me? I will show you right now. Ta-da, it's amazing. So all it is a mount that is specifically made for the Vive motion controller, right? So like, whoa, big deal. Well, if you saw my earlier rigs or you're trying this yourself, you'll know that mounting this controller is a little bit wonky. There's no quarter 20 mount like the tracker. It's kind of difficult to do. And if you're using clamps like I was, you're always kind of at risk for like snapping this thing in half, which is not good on a virtual production set. You don't want to break your camera tracker. And secondly, most importantly, is that this piece here was made by HTC's engineers to perfectly keep the controller flat and level. And it's not that straightforward to do that on your own if you're mounting it. It has this kind of like interesting angle. Anyway, zeroed out for this is a very specific thing. And without this, which has a little quarter 20 at the bottom of it, it's pretty dicey to do it yourself. Now I have a ball head so we can continue leveling, but at least I kind of know where the level point is. It's this little, thing that can be printed out from a 3D printer. They have the STL file, they may release it, but what we really need is a manufacturer in the film industry that makes accessories, something like Red Rock Micro, Zacuto, SmallRig, Tilta, Wooden Camera, Ari, anybody like that, to be paying attention and know that, hey, we need a little part like this. And there's gonna be more and more parts like that as this ecosystem starts to come together. Thank you to HTC for sending this to me. I'm going to be using this actually as my primary pure virtual camera, right? So when I'm doing virtual camera in Cine Tracer now, or Unreal Engine, I actually really prefer using the controller because I need these buttons. I need these buttons to focus, to change the focal length and whatnot. And this is going to allow me to have a lot more controls immediately. One issue with this mount is that currently the little trigger is kind of blocked by the mount here, just to keep it really secure there. I could really use that trigger. I actually use that for focusing in Cine Tracer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So second on the agenda, I have upgraded my home studio yet again. So let's do a quick little tour around. For me even, I like looking back at these. I just want to show you how my studio has evolved and how it's laid out now compared to even like a couple weeks ago when I started this whole thing. So let's begin the home studio tour. Over here is my new computer setup. I've moved it a little bit and it now oversees the green screen set over there. And I have this window blanked out with a sound blanket, pretty funny. And this is my little workshop here where I build different camera rigs. You see we got some GPUs. It's kind of a mess, but working on stuff goes there, can kind of keep all my tools in one place, and my computer is right behind it, so that's nice. Directly to my right is my little shooting alley here, so this is where the cameras go, usually where I'm standing, and this is where the jib's gonna go as well, so I'm probably gonna have to move that chill couch. Sad. As we come over here now, you can see my Blackmagic camera, and this is my new green screen, so it's hard to tell without someone in it perhaps, but it's pretty big. So we have two Lastolite backgrounds here, panoramic backgrounds, with the Lastolite connection kit in the middle. Does a really good job. It's a little wrinkly, but I'll tell you it keys out just fine. And we have two really affordable muslin backgrounds just for the floor piece. So this is my 180 setup here. Pretty happy with it. I have my house lights on here, but we have two lights lighting it pretty evenly. And you'll see that we have a base station there, right there. We've got a base station there. And let's see if I can film this. I'm going to back up a little bit. The other two are right there. So there, you can see all four base stations, right? Like that. And that gives me a lot of coverage, and they all see the trackers in most cases. So that's the new configuration. We'll continue the tour over here. I am planning on having people come here and filming a little bit. So this is my little green room back here. So people can change into the mocap suit if they need to, do some other stuff. I got some chargers and just a whole bunch of junk, but it's kind of like a little green room. So leaving the green room, the changing room, we're gonna go over here to the equipment room. This is the green screen, again, pretty decent size. And over here is my little equipment nook with a bunch of equipment. This is where all my boxes are hanging out. And that's pretty much the studio tour. So that is the studio tour. I don't think I can get any bigger in the space I'm currently in, and I'm really happy with it. I've got my big green screen, I've got my like little film cabinet, I even have like a little changing room, and I've got my computer, little space here that I can film YouTube with, and I'm really happy with this space. Working out really cool. So we're gonna get a jib, and we're gonna continue to add even crazier stuff into here, but that's the current state of it. Number 3, we have shipped our first Cine Tracer version that has a Vive Virtual Camera in it. So you saw early in the series, I set up the Vive for the first time. I made a virtual camera in Unreal Engine, and I was like, hey, I could probably do this in Cine Tracer, and that is exactly what I did. I spent a couple days programming it, testing it, and then I shipped it. And from what I hear, it's working pretty well. There's a lot of issues with usability to keep like designing, but overall, people can connect to it and it's working really well. So if you want like a really indie, like entry-level version of virtual production, Cine Tracer is basically gonna be the easiest way in. You're gonna get Cine Tracer on your computer, that's gonna install through Steam, you're gonna have Steam VR, and then you just need a Vive, you can use the controller to start, and you're gonna be able to do some virtual camera stuff with some pre-made characters, pre-made sets, right? Just kind of limited stuff, but it gets you going. That's the idea with Cine Tracer, is that it's like a quick version of previs and virtual production Unreal Engine. It's a quick entry-level way of doing it, so I'm really happy that it's in there, and I wanted to share some community work that's out there that people have shared of them using Cine Tracer and the virtual camera. Sorry, so I have to read the shoutouts from my iPad. I don't have everyone's names memorized here, but shout out to Omen Film Co. One of the first people to really show the system working. He's using a Vive controller and recording with an Adamus Sumo, I think, monitor. Really cool demos going on there. Shout out to Mark D Films, who tested it with the Valve Index controller, so it works with the Valve Index controllers, which I thought it might. That's pretty cool. And shout out The Future Is Now, using a Vive tracker. I don't know if I'm gonna have the clip in time for that. And also shout out Olaf Blomerus. Is that how you say your last name, bro? We talk a lot, but I don't know how to say your last name. He tested it with the Vive tracker, and Cine Tracer virtual camera all operational. I'm pretty excited about that. Number 4, high-end camera tracking solutions. So what I would say is, if you're looking to get into indie virtual production or virtual production at all, that you should probably get a Vive, either for yourself or for your company. If you're not familiar with Unreal Engine at the moment, you can use Cine Tracer, which is like the program that I make, and you can try it out and do some virtual camera and eventually maybe some mixed reality as well. But once you kind of prove to yourself that it works in Cine Tracer or it works in Unreal Engine with a Vive, you might want to be thinking about, how do I step this up to a professional level, right? In Unreal Engine, I want to do an LED wall, I want to do a big green screen shoot, like you do perhaps already, but you want to do virtual production, you want to do mixed reality, you want to have really high quality tracking data. Well, the Vive eventually does fall off in quality. You're going to get a lot done from the beginning. To go from nothing to Vive is like a huge step, I know, for most people. But to go to the next level, you're going to need to start looking at some higher-end camera tracking solutions. So I have been talking with some manufacturers who make these high-end solutions. I've used some of them myself, never set them up, but I've been talking with them about this kind of like indie production movement that we're kind of got going here, and about this YouTube series and generally the content I make, you know, all over the internet. And we thought it would be a really cool idea to show setting up a really high-end camera system and then show how good the fidelity is, even if it's in like a little studio like mine. You can still see the difference between a pro system with lens profiling and really high fidelity Genlock tracking in Unreal Engine, and really compare it to the Vive and show you how you set it up, what's the difference, and if we're allowed to talk about cost as well. Cost is kind of like, you know, a flexible thing. It depends on your studio and what you need, but we can kind of maybe start to ballpark, how much do these high-end systems cost? How do you set them up? What do they look like? And importantly, I think for a lot of people who have communicated to me that they're looking to buy these systems, what is the difference between them? There's not much information out there. You can talk to certain companies that consult and install them. But in general, this kind of virtual production industry has been a little bit secretive until now. A lot of it's been just like R&D and just for like big studios. But now it's really starting to come down where it's going to be done at the indie level. And some studios may even go for the high-end camera tracking systems just to have perfect tracking. So let me know in the comments below if that's something you're interested in. We're going to keep showing the indie way, right? The Vive and indie cameras and keeping things kind of DIY. But I know for, you know, a certain portion of the people that are watching this, they're interested in like, hey, how does an NCAM work? How does a MOSIS work? How does a Stipe work? What are the differences? How do you set them up? And really just see them in action. I'm interested to see them in action and selfishly just want to kind of play with the kit. But I know that for this industry to kind of grow, we need to talk about the indie entry level and also the high end and the full spectrum. And so people can just understand this like they understand like regular filmmaking. Like we kind of know how much does a camera cost and lenses, how much do lights cost, right? How long does it take to set them up? How do you edit it, right? How do you go into After Effects and do chroma keying and add a background? So we need that, I believe we need that same kind of information out there, even if it's kind of generally like, how do you do virtual production in Unreal Engine and key it? How do you track the camera? What if you're doing like a techno crane move and it's a huge studio and you know the Vives aren't gonna work, right? What else can you have? This information needs to be out there for this to really kind of just continue to grow. And especially, I know a lot of people are anxious to get into LED walls. That is the most expensive and the most high-end, but we're going to attempt to cover that. It does rely very heavily on very good camera tracking and lens tracking. So with a Vive, I will show you in the future what it looks like with it, and it's pretty cool off the bat. But it does, in my opinion, probably fall off pretty hard if you were to shoot against a really big LED wall. You're gonna wanna go the high-end system. You're gonna want perfect tracking, gen-lock, because the screens get gen-locked. You're gonna need like really nice lens profiling. You're gonna want the whole package, probably. So again, let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. If there's a specific system you want to see reviewed and talked about, I have the resources to reach out to them and maybe they would be interested in doing a demo. No promises, we'll find out. So that wraps it up for this vlog. Sorry I didn't get to do any like shooting or cool testing. I do want to do some stuff with the Rococo suit. I have some interesting virtual production tools I've been developing, I think with an Xbox controller for the face, stuff for Cine Tracer, and I'm going to continue to do what I do, which is develop weird virtual production previs tools in Unreal Engine. And thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in following up, learning more, and kind of really joining this community, I really recommend you joining the Facebook group that is linked below. There is a very, very wide range of people there now. We have like the veterans of the virtual production industry that worked on like Avatar and Mandalorian, and we have a lot of the manufacturers there too now, so don't go on there and be shit-talking equipment or software. Those developers are there too, so keep that in mind. This is users and developers all coming together from the film industry, the VFX industry, broadcast, virtual production, augmented reality, from all over. And that's kind of the ecosystem that virtual production brings together. You're going to have the compositor from like The Mandalorian, also there with a DP who's trying to set up their home studio, right? All in the same space. So just keep that in mind, be respectful in that community. There's a no warning ban policy. I've had to get rid of a couple people already. I'm the admin, by the way. People that are acting dumb on the internet. The internet's been here for a long time. If you're acting stupid and it's my judgment, you're just gone, okay? But just keep in mind, manufacturers, developers, filmmakers, beginners, hobbyists, students, they're all in this group here kind of growing, and we need everyone in it. So be cool, be chill, come hanging on the Facebook group. I'll see you guys on the next vlog.